was linked with an increased incidence of microcephaly and Guillain-Barré syndrome. They realized they could also contribute to understanding this new viral threat. In collaboration with researchers from Purdue University, they conducted studies to determine the structure of Zika virus NS1. Although their previous work with the NS1 protein had established because of its critical roles in viral replication and disease pathogenesis, the flavivirus non-structural protein 1, NS1, is an attractive target for design of vaccines and drugs that could protect against diseases such as Zika, West Nile, and dengue that are caused by flaviviruses. Its basic structure, several features were not resolved. Using data colect at GM/CAXSD beamline 23 IDD at the APS, the researchers were able to determine more detailed information about the Zika virus NS1 protein, which helped to fill in these gaps. For example, they found that Zika virus NS1 has electrostatic charge properties that differ from those of NS1 proteins in other flaviviruses. They also identified a part of the protein that was not visible in the earlier NS1 structures, an additional hydrophobic surface for membrane association, figure 1. During viral replication, elucidating the Zika virus NS1 structure helped the researchers to understand how NS1 circulates in the bloodstream of infected patients as a protein lipid particle. According to the researchers, this new information about the Zika virus NS1 structure adds important details of the molecular framework for understanding how NS1 accomplishes its functions in the infection cycle. Science.
The horseshoe crab blood is vital for making vaccines, and now due to the race to combat the coronavirus, these living fossils are hitting the headlines again. The horseshoe crab blood is blue because of its rich copper content, and it is the only known natural source of limulus amoebocyte lysate, or LAL, which is a substance that detects a contaminant called endotoxin. The crab's blood clots upon encountering endotoxins, which can be lethal if they enter vaccines. Safety tests using the horseshoe crab blood is the industry standard, but environmentalists are advocating the use of a synthetic alternative.
For hundreds of millions of years, horseshoe crabs have been crawling around the ocean floor. Coming ashore to mate in the spring, these living fossils are synced to the rhythms of the tides. Today, migratory shorebirds, sea turtles, and other ocean animals depend on horseshoe crabs for food. They are a keystone species at the heart of many coastal ecosystems from infection. The horseshoe crab has evolved a powerful mechanism for protecting itself from infection. When bacteria sneaks past a horseshoe crab's shell, cells in the crab's blood send out a chemical that clots around the invader, stopping it in its tracks. And it's this property that makes horseshoe crab blood invaluable to the medical
because of
industry.
the absence of observations during the transient activity time. Supported by the above two cases, we suggest that they are correlated to sources of cometary activity.
To make sure that they're not contaminated.
4.4. Clusters of patches. There have been several observations of clusters of bright patches that are individually smaller in size compared to the aforementioned features. These clusters have mostly been observed in the pre-perihelion period, and they are located near cliff structures. Therefore, these clusters could be related to cliff collapse events, in which the resulting debris exposes water ice contained and preserved inside since their formation, as the major cliff collapse in Aswan area has been explained by Pajola et al. 2015-2016. Figure 6 shows a cluster of smaller bright features in the Kepri region. First observed at the end of August 2014, this cluster remained very stable for about 3 months. We numbered some of the individual patches to emphasize their stability in the sequence of images. This cluster might have remained stable for longer, but it is difficult to conclude owing to the inadequate temporal coverage of images. An observation dating back to the 25th of March 2015 indicates that the entire cluster has sublimated away, which indicates the influence of increasing solar irradiation on the clustered individual patches. This cluster was firstly studied by Pomerol et al. 2015 and Baruchi et al. 2016 attributed its presence to H2O using VIRTISM infrared spectra. Frost has been observed since the arrival of Rosetta de Sanctis et al. 2015 at 67 p 3.6 astronomical units by VIRTIS spectro-imager, and has since been continuously observed by OSIRIS up to the end of the mission 3.8 astronomical units comets with a pronounced abundance towards the perihelion passage Fornasia et al. 2016. This frost could be observed at the local dawn on the comet, where the sunlight returns after about 6-8. Thus, the shadows cast by different morphological structures get shorter as the sun moves towards the local azimuth, revealing the frost formed over the cometary night due to condensation of previously sublimated water ice. The frost could be observed for some minutes before being rapidly sublimated away, depending on the heliocentric distance of the comet. This process continues as long as the solar irradiation is strong enough to sublimate the frost. Once the comet is beyond the current snowline of the solar system, the diurnal water cycle of the comet ceases, leading to no further frost sublimation until the comet returns inside the snowline for its next perihelion passage. This diurnal cycle of water was more pronounced as 67 feet got closer to the perihelion, as water production rates on the comet rose due to the increasing solar irradiation. Hence, close to the perihelion, both inbound and outbound, frost was ephemerally visible on a given location during the local cometary morning. It is also possible that the four types of bright features introduced earlier contributed to the diurnal cycle of water on the comet as they have been constantly sublimating, thus liberating the amount of water ice necessary to sustain the diurnal cycle of water on the comet.
Specific genes that indicates the presence of life to the organism. 14 IDB by AKRS Life Sciences. Phytochromes are composed of evolutionarily conserved domains. The per/arn/sim PA and phosphodiesterase/adenyl cyclase/FHLAGAF domains assume a tightly packed globular structure stabilized by a figure 8-like knot formed by Argonne National Laboratory 166 APS Science 2006 Argonne National Laboratory 165. Most enzymes have one job. 21 years on from those first X-rays. We like to think we have this light source business figured out. Most enzymes have one job with structures that are honed by evolution for a single specific purpose. However, a few special enzymes do double duty, targeting two different substrates. Such enigmatic catalysts beg the question of how one enzyme with a single structure recognizes two substrates with different structures.
Their impacts on government, writing, and cultural trends are part of our everyday society. But what about the Phoenicians? You might not have heard of them, but their many contributions are just as essential for us as other bygone civilizations. From around 1550 BCE to 300 BCE, the Phoenicia Empire had a significant civilization built primarily on shipping trade throughout the Mediterranean. They established coastline cities that allowed their people to have a rich, enterprising maritime trade culture. They created waterways of business for many of the civilizations at the time, making it possible for someone from Greece or Rome to communicate and trade with people as far away as Britain. The Phoenicians didn't have a centralized location for their government. Perhaps the city-state of Tyre came closest to their established authority. As an alternative, like many ancient ruling powers, Phoenicians established independent city-states, a single city with surrounding dependent territories along the Mediterranean Sea. They used strategic city settings that allowed them a stronghold for maritime trade routes. Lebanon, Syria, and most of northern Israel, as we know them today, grew out of the Phoenician city-states, and the ancient city-state of Tyre is considered the most prominent Phoenician established with over 30,000 citizens at its height of power. Phoenicians weren't interested in metal crafts, writing in scrolls, or art, unless it had something to do with shipbuilding. Their entire society grew around their understanding of the Mediterranean Sea. That means that if you wanted to set up a trade route over water in 1550 BCE, you had to use Phoenician ships.
When people think of Israel, volcanoes are not the first thing that comes to mind. Medina in 1250 and the volcanoes which recently erupted, such as Saudi Arabia. One of its volcanoes, Harat Rahat, nearly destroyed the city of Medina in 1256 when it covered a vast area with lava. Another volcano in Syria, known as Safa, erupted quite recently in 1850. With all of this being said, Israel also contains an active volcanic field. The volcanic field in question is known as the Golan Heights, which is located in the northeast section
on papyrus and have
from memory, enter at the DOS prompt ::gold key d canet deckpad.key and g0ldkey.com version 2.0
is comprised of 3 large sectors. The main sector of the settlement, the Acropolis, located in the
was king. He ruled 36 years. You so it's roughly 27 years ago.
As he did not rebuke King Uzziah and the first
stones placed here by an ancient tribe came to
The affinity of immobilized enzyme towards starch was higher compared with soluble enzyme. We have estimated 0.1.146002 3.95. The experiment shows that aerobic denitrification in this soil-derived community is insignificant without prior exposure to an anoxic phase. The role of NO2 as an inducer of aerobic denitrification is unclear. Cells which are exposed to short anoxic periods, for instance created by flooding and subsequent drainage, will probably keep on denitrifying even once the O2 supply is partly or fully restored.
Seth and Ash include contributions in the line of sight of the
D20 content ppms, D20 deuterium content of waters in various parts of the world, D20 content ppm sample, Oceans North Sea 161.3, Atlantic near Quiberon 162.8, Atlantic near Long Island 159.9, Antarctic number 1 157.1, Antarctic number 2 159.8, Antarctic number 3 160.9, Indian Ocean 161.0, lakes and inland seas, Dead Sea, Baltic Sea, Mono Lake, USA, Kanujarvi, Finland, Lake Geneva, Loch Ness, Lake Michigan, Rivers Weser, Rhine, Po, Niger, Ijoki, Finland, Vienne, France, Iskre, Springs Il Arian, Tunisia, Mineral Springs of Tiberiade, Caldanaxia, France, El Imans Tir, Alps, 162.6, 156.1, 152, 8 146, 8 147.5, 154.5, 153, 2 152, 0, 151, 7 149.4, 157.7, 147, 0, 153.3, 3 to 4 p.m. respectively. Overall, the ground-level ozone concentration displayed a pronounced spatial gradient, increasing from the south to the north of the region due to the differences in vehicle exhaust emitted VOx and PM2.5 concentration between northern and southern Beijing. A major value of NOHO2N2 that is consistent with Rosina measurements of NOHO-N22 Beeler ETAL 2015.
Damage as well.
It's trapped inside of the ice. We found a living scene. We can